Hidden Echoes first began as a project back in 2007 when I first had the idea of doing something new. I kind of wanted to get back into my black and white animation roots, and so I started just pretty much like a simple journal. And every day, I kind of maybe I'd be out walking, or I kind of just go down to the beach or something, or just kind of any place that I found to be necessarily inspiring. And I bring the journal with me. I jot down a few ideas. Maybe it might just be the idea of a single scene, or maybe I would just write down some images that it seemed like a cool connection to something else. And just over time, I'd start just kind of developing more ideas about the project, and like, oh, it'd be cool if maybe we had to do something like this, or I'd take like another theme that maybe I had a dream about something, or just kind of just all these different things, and I just kept jotting them down. And over time, like I really started getting like a sense for a project, and how can I sort out these different ideas that I've been working on and kind of make them one cohesive thing. So that was kind of like on the idea side of it. But then as far as like what did the project look like, I took my digital camera out there and was kind of just location scouting, day to day, week to week, over course of a few months, taking little shots here, a little bit there, just kind of, again, creating like a wellspring of material to kind of work from. And that's kind of where the project began. And it wasn't until, let's say, maybe February or March of 2008 that I really kind of had a set of ideas that I felt would make like a good project, and I wanted to do an animated short. I kind of knew that going into it, and versus some of my past work, I really wanted it to have a sense of realism. Compared to my past work, Hidden Echoes is a bit of a departure, and yet at the same time, it is a return to some of the earlier techniques and styles, and kind of the emotional content that I had kind of started with some of my early 16mm work. I knew I wanted to do black and white. I had just finished Calypso's song prior to that, and it was color, and I was literally inundated with like just all these bright images, and I really kind of wanted to do a 180 and kind of just get back to some of those maybe simplistic design roots, and really kind of have like sort of like a film noir sort of look with like high contrast and shadows and kind of stuff like that. So I watched some of my old 16mm films that I first did as an art student, and I love the interplay of the light, and I love the sense of realism. So I kind of had those ideas in mind from, not exactly from the beginning, but pretty early on, and that's where like that location scouting came in, where I'd have all these images like, oh, that would look really great in black and white, and that's kind of where the creative energy came from this. And so it was kind of like a return to the beginning almost. People often ask me, like, how does the creative process begin for you? How do you start? Well, like I was talking about earlier with the journal, that's kind of how I usually generate ideas, and kind of just get myself thinking about a new project and new ideas and new images. But the actual creative side, where I'm actually starting to make some stuff, do the hands-on, it usually starts with a series of sketches. I'll just take some of the photos I worked from in this case, and just kind of start drawing them and just get a sense for what aesthetic I'm working with. And now with this project, I knew I wanted to do it in black and white, and I wanted to again use pencil for it. So I pretty much started just drawing a few images from the stuff that I'd taken pictures of, and often I'll come up with like a storyboard and just kind of like really quick sketches of a sequence of events, and that way I can kind of start taking each scene, which had kind of been a separate thing before, and then just piecing them together visually, just for myself. So I'll have like a series of all these like sketches and drawings and things. From there, like once I have the general plot worked out, I'll organize the whole film. Then I'll start with the write-up. In this case, there was a narrative that I'd wanted to have for the film, and that kind of came at the end of the creative process, where I'd already had these images, and I thought, well, how can I kind of tie it together, because a lot of it was visual poetry that I was working with. So then I really wanted to have like some sort of narrative to kind of create the auditory experience. to kind of bring all these different pieces together. So I wrote a narrative, and it took a little while to fine-tune it, but once I had that together, it was kind of all the creative pieces were there, at least from the material side. Then it became time to actually do the finished drawings, and each drawing, probably takes me maybe 1 to 2 hours. I really like to get in there, do a lot of detail, use multiple pencils, and just really get in there. From there, I take the images, I scan them onto the computer with just a flatbed scanner, and I import them into Adobe Photoshop. From there, I can kind of cut out the images and kind of clear like all the empty space around it, so I just have just what I've drawn. From there, it's kind of like puppetry, where I bring them into Adobe After Effects now that they're all been cleaned up, and there I work in a series of layers. So say you take a shot, like say I'm sitting here at this desk, I'd probably draw myself, my hand, in one layer. Behind it, I would have the computers here. I would draw that as a separate layer, and then I might even do a third layer for the background. Now, each layer, I only draw the elements that are going to be on screen. So like I draw my hands and myself, then I would draw the computer, and then when you layer, after I've cut all those three out, once you lay them on top of each other, you kind of get a visual sense for the whole scene. And then what I can do in Adobe After Effects is I can say, well, at point X, I want this one element to be here on the side, and then the other one will be here, and then by point Y, say 5 seconds, I want them to switch position. So by moving it side to side like that, or maybe it's a zooming in or out, you can create the illusion of motion, the illusion of space, and in turn you can create the illusion of life on screen. And that's kind of really where the magic happens, as they say. From there, I kind of build each scene separately, and then I export it into Adobe Premiere, where I can kind of do the fine editing, make the individual cuts between scenes, and just kind of piece together the entire production, really. Now, all along, I've been kind of gathering, sound effects, music from the collaborators, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And so once I have all those elements as well, I bring those into Premiere. Premiere is like strictly a movie editing software. So I have all the scenes already, as if I had been shooting in video or another format. And from there, like I said, I can do all the fine editing and piece together the audio and just really get the final edit of the film together. And I can, that's where I do the titles and bring all these elements together. And from there, you can export it, and you're pretty much good to go, and you're ready for the premiere. Working with collaborators is an incredibly exciting undertaking whenever you're making a film, an animation, or you soon realize when you start writing one of these projects that you're going to need a lot of people to get your whole vision realized. And I mean, if you think about modern day films, I mean, there's hundreds of people working on these productions. I mean, you look at all the credits and they just go on and on and on, and it's like, whoa, all these creative talents were involved here to make this thing possible. And Hidden Echoes, it was kind of similar. We didn't have hundreds or even thousands of people working on it, but we did have some really wonderful talents that I'd like to talk about today. The first of which would have to be Slava Timikin. He wrote the musical score for Hidden Echoes and just did a beautiful job of just kind of working with me and getting my thoughts and feedback on what I had in mind for the music, and then taking those actual little ideas and then actually writing some concrete music out of it. And it was an exciting process. It started pretty early on in the creative process, maybe back in, I think it was probably December of '07, if not even November, a little bit earlier, where I sat down with him and said, look, what do I need to get you to be able to write the music for my project? And he's like, well, why don't we have you do all the drawings, edit your film, and then just give me the finished product, and then I will actually write the music to the edits, to the cuts. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea. That's how the professionals often do it, where you don't have the music yet and you just give them the edit, and they will literally time every motion and every just every poignant instance on screen to maybe a cymbal crash if it's a dramatic moment, or having a harp in the background, or any instrument, just to kind of key it in, kind of like the old Disney cartoons, where often the sound effects would actually be used as uh, as musical instruments to kind of signify action or rumbling or emotion. So that was our initial plan. It didn't exactly work out that way. As the months went on, like the animation process was a little bit slower, and I was like, look, it's going to take me a little bit longer than I initially envisioned to actually have the animation itself finished. So what we ended up doing is I sat down with him and I kind of gave him the theme. We talked about, childhood innocence and sort of, a sense of romanticized, what's the word, like melancholy and just kind of reminiscing about your past. So that was kind of the general theme that I gave him in the tone. And I said, I kind of want it to be Asian inspired, very simplistic. And I love the classical music flair to it. So we decided on classical piano as the platform. So I kind of just gave him those ideas, and there, even just spontaneously, he kind of played a little bit of music because he has this amazing talent where he can just literally, if you just talk to him about something, he can play it, just right off the cuff. And from there, fast forward a few weeks later, we continued to talk about the music, and he had actually written a theme, and he had me come over and I showed him some of the drawings I was working on so he could kind of see what I was doing. Then he played what he was working on for me, so it was kind of back and forth. And I told him the parts I did like, I told him the parts that maybe weren't 100% of a right fit for the material. And he's like, oh, okay, I know just what you mean. And say a couple of weeks later, this was probably early 2008, he actually just sent me the full piece. And we discussed and decided to make it about 6 to 8 minutes. So he took that general theme that he had written, and then he just kind of improv onto it to add, crescendos and just kind of give it some peaks and valleys. From there, I took the music and actually did the edits of the film to the music. So they are in tune, and there was just some great serendipitous moments there where the music, just pitched at the right moment, or there was a great, just emotional key point, and it was amazing how well that it matched up. That was really an exciting process to kind of see the visual and the audio world come together and crash, and just have this great reaction. So that was really exciting. The overall theme of Hidden Echoes is something that I wanted to deliberate a lot about, because it is kind of the importance. It's kind of the meat and potatoes of the film itself, because when you watch a film, you really want to have the audience take something away from it, and that was definitely something early on that I was actively thinking about throughout the creative process. And it's probably what I've given the most thought to for the entire piece, because the whole idea of telling a personal story like this is to hit home with the audience, and to just to kind of impact their lives in some way, or even just make them think about things that they haven't normally even thought about. So the overall theme of this project, I wanted to do something about kind of harkening back to a simpler time in your life, and in this case I touched on kind of getting back to that sense of childhood innocence that we all enjoy in our formative years, or hopefully can enjoy. And I think that's something that can be lost as we get older, and life gets more complicated, and we get to that 9 to 5, 24/7 world with all its stresses and modern day malaise and so forth. So that was something that I kind of wanted to illustrate and get people to think about. So when I was writing the story, I came up with the idea of the young man who's struggling with deep issues in his life and having one of those sleepless nights, and then it's that he sees a shell on his bedstand, and it kind of just brings him back to that time in his life when things were simpler, and he was a child, and just kind of just having that sense of childhood wonder, and kind of grasping the beauty in the everyday, where you might not be thinking about, oh, what's on my schedule, or what time is it, or what do I have to do 5 weeks from now, and you really be focused on, oh, what am I doing right now, what's this sensation, or what does it feel like to have be walking on the beach and feel the sand in my toes, or just being excited about little things in life that you kind of just take for granted later on. So that was really the driving force for Hidden Echoes. At the end of August 2008, the film was finally done. I mean, I think everybody in the state of Rhode Island breathed a sigh of relief on that one because it finally was finished. The word was out. WaveGuardArts.com was like, it's done, it's done. So the film was done, and it was time to have a premiere. So I invited all my family and friends, and we got together at a local screening place, and it was great. You know, it was the first chance to really get a lot of wide scale feedback for the film. We bribed people with lemonade and cookies, and it was a great time. We started off. I just gave a quick little introduction to the project. From there, we actually screened it once. It's only 6 minutes long, so it was actually nice. We could screen it. I could have a question and answer period where people could just give me, you know, what were you thinking there, or how did you come to this idea, and just really kind of talk about the process, kind of like what we're doing now with this interview. And we kind of had a back and forth. Slava talked about writing music because he was in-house, and then we showed it a second time, which really gave people a chance to kind of notice a lot of little details and some of the creative decisions that were made. And then from there, we just had a kind of a reception, and I brought in some prints of the work I had made for people to have take home with them. It was a great night. It was so fun. And it was just great to finally share what I've been working on for months, you know, with everybody, and just give them a sense to see, like, oh, you know, he's not crazy. He really has been working on something, and that was a lot of fun for me. Plans for the future. Great question. Where's WaveGuardArts going? You know, that's probably what people ask me the most. Everyone's like, oh, well, what are you working on now? I'm like, you know, it's kind of top secret, but I will share it with you guys today. What I would like to do, I have a couple scripts in mind that I've written. One is the Tula and Oslo script that I actually wrote before I wrote Hidden Echoes. It's a feature-length production. It's going to be in color, and it's got all the trimmings. I mean, it's just such a huge project. I really wanted to do Hidden Echoes first to practice my technique, to kind of just work out some of the kinks in the process, and just get better as an animator. Because I felt the Tula Oslo script was really strong, and it could really have a lot of impact. So I'm gearing up for that. I've started the storyboarding on it, and I think people are really going to be surprised and pleasantly shocked even when they see it. So that's on the horizon. Really looking forward to doing that. I think immediately next I'd like to do another short film, just one more, I think, where I can work more on character articulation, you know, lip syncing, and give the characters themselves a little bit more action on screen. I think that would really raise the bar to that next level where making the feature and, you know, really investing maybe 1 or 2 years into it would make a lot of sense. So that's definitely coming as well, and I'd really like to pick up maybe a few more collaborators to join the WaveGuardArts team. We've got a great group of people already, and I think a few more maybe on the drawing side, or maybe even as an animator would be cool. So that's definitely on the horizon. I've always dreamed of doing a children's book as well. So I have some ideas I've been kind of talking about with friends, and hopefully, you know, we'll get that together. We have a great theme in mind. It's a surprise right now. It's top secret, but hopefully that'll be coming out in a few years, and you can find that at your local library even. Other than that, there's a few things I'd also like to consider doing for the website. I'd like to maybe have a weekly or even bi-weekly spot where it's an animated short, maybe like 5 minutes, kind of like a running story where you can follow a particular character over the course of maybe even a year, kind of extend it out, just to give people a chance to keep coming back to the studio and just kind of keep them involved with it, as opposed to where right now maybe every year or two we come up with something new. This way it would give them something brand new to come back to each week, and just, you know, kind of just keep the excitement level up there. So there's definitely a lot to look forward to from WaveGuardArts in the future. That wraps up our behind-the-scenes director candid interview here with myself, Chris Robadue, and I'd like to thank you so much for checking out the DVD, and just everybody for all their inspiration and encouragement over the years. It's been tremendous, and it really means so much to me. And again, thank you so much for checking out the DVD. Take care.